Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyanema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop, and smart TVs. As we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
Uganda is born again.
Mubirabye. Mubiwulidde.
And you will see what NRM means. We are going to crush those criminals.
Mubyenyigiddemu.
We are simply peacefully telling our people, say no to rigged elections.
Ebimu mubitegeera.
Naffe tusobola okutiisatiisa abo abatiisatiisa.
Oba oli awo ng'abamu mugwamu bigwe. Byabaffe byava ku ki?
Era kyova olaba baatukolera ne constitution esinga obusiru mu nsi yonna.
Bino n'ebirala birindirire buli lwa Sande okuva ku ssaawa 11 okutuuka ku ssaawa 1 ey'akawungeezi n'eyaliko Katikkiro wa Buganda Oweekitiibwa Dani Muliika ku program Eriiso ly'Omukulu ku Facebook page The Alternative Uganda.
The world is at a critical moment of providing innovative alternatives as a means to create change.
As such, we have created a not-for-profit alternative mobile digital platform as a way to promote space for freedom of speech and expression to the unheard voices.
We know you believe in the cause and you can further it more by contributing to its sustainability in forms of internet data, fuel, and any other support you deem relevant.
Please support us with your contribution to Equity Bank account number 103-5201-607252 under the name Alternative Digital, or our mobile money numbers 0702 900076 or 0783 047785. Alternative Digital. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Well, a very good morning and a warm welcome to the Mighty Drive Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karohanga. How is your morning today on the 15th of February 2021? Welcome back from that Lovers Day that was yesterday, the 14th of January. That is the Valentine's Day special. Guys, I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed. But I hope you enjoyed responsibly and safely, because in this day and era, you need to be responsible and safe if you are to, live another day and, make sure that you can fulfill your purpose, that as to why you are on earth and as to why you wake up each and every day. But we are back and we are bigger and we are better. This is the Mighty Drive Show. Our set today is in Perere. We are going to be hosting a professor. He's a political science professor. He's none other than Mr. Mwambutysa Ndebesa. He's a professor at Makerere University and a professor of political science at that. We'll be dissecting some of the things that you need to know about what he thinks about the political spectrum of the country. Where is our country going? In a country where we have a lot of election petitions, in a country where we have a lot of violence, in a country where we have a lot of, these days it's unsustainability and, instability. We'll be talking to Mr. Ndebesa and he will be dissecting more on these things and telling us what he thinks and what is his take on the political arena of Uganda. But nonetheless, I welcome you to the Mighty Drive yet again. This is just a news update where we give you what is happening in the country, what is happening in the world, and what is happening where you're not. And that is why we're here today. As I've told you earlier, we're going to be having Professor Ndebesa, and he's going to be seated where I'm seated right now, and we'll be with Farida Bikobere and myself, Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, as we, take you through our time from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day, Monday to Friday. So today we're hosting Professor. Now, away from that, let's go straight to the news updates today. President Museveni came out and talked about security on Saturday, I think the 13th of February 2021. He talked about, he gave us a presidential address about security and what is happening, the abductions and the kidnaps that have been happening all over the country. He came out and said that he emphasized that Uganda is very safe. It is a country that is safe. There is no, a lot of violence or anything, insecurities and instabilities. He said it is a safe country and assured every Ugandan that all the people who are, have disappeared all over the days and the past days from the election time, he says that it's the police that has been, making these arrests. And he said they brought a special unit from Somalia that was responsible for this particular, activity. They were taking out some people who were, he called them terrorists in his own words. He said that they are terrorists, but that is something that we have to debate upon, because what makes a terrorist? That is a question to ask. I don't think a person who's a civilian and he's unarmed, he's he needs to be dubbed a terrorist. And Museveni said that these people are terrorists, and some of them were, apprehended by the security operatives, and we are making sure the country is safe. So it is for your safety, and that's why some people are, disappearing. And he says that he has put up a hotline where you can call and inquire about any missing person, and they will get back to you as soon as possible. But then the constitution mandates that the police should have an identity and while they're arresting somebody, and should inform them why they're arresting them. But these disappearances that are mysterious, and after a long time some are recovered, and those that are recovered and seen are very, very, in very bad shape after being tortured by the security organs that are supposed to really protect them. So I think Mr. Museveni did not dissect more on that, but he needed to really talk about these things. Why did he call them terrorists in the first place? Were they armed? Were they in military formations? What is the criteria for dubbing them terrorists, as he asserts? Away from that, the EU sanctions, President Museveni said he's not worried about that. Nobody would like to go to, he says people plead for him to go to, those European countries. He's not somebody who really likes to go out and, travel to other different countries. He said that is a blessing in disguise, because he says he does not believe in walking. He says Uganda is enough for him. He enjoys it, and it is always about friendship. That is why he moves from this country and goes to other countries, just to make sure that he strengthens the ties between Uganda and the other countries. But on his personal level, he says it is okay if the EU sanctions many of the NRM cadres and does not allow them to go to Europe. And he says for him it's well and good. And he says they do not actually need him. So President Museveni, I think those are the main things that he emphasized on at just 6 minutes past the top of the hour. This is the Mighty Drive Show. Let's cross over to the election petition by Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Yes, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu filed a petition earlier on, but the next hearing is due on the 24th of February 2020. The question is the time enough? Because it looks like the time is not really enough, because they have to give a verdict over this particular petition on March 18th. That makes it over like a month tops that they have to have this hearing. But remember, evidence is still coming on, because I remember the last session was adjourned because the National Unity Platform says they were missing a bit of evidence and they wanted to compile it and bring it to Parliament, to court, to settle this particular claim that this assertion that the election was rigged. So we'll be giving you what is happening there, but the council made at Segona, Shamim Malende are already on there trying to get and recover more evidence about, these particular claims. So we'll be giving you that. Now there is a talk that has been going around town after, the US naval, base and ship docked at Mombasa. That is 1,000 kilometers from Mombasa up to here. Many people have been talking, why has it docked at this time? Why is it docking? Is this a statement? Is the United States saying something? Do they have an interest in Uganda? But okay, that is just speculation for now. People are still speculating, thinking that maybe there is a hidden agenda. I'm not sure about the hidden agenda yet, but that is what they claim, that there must be a hidden agenda. Maybe it is an agenda to oust President Museveni out of power, but the United States has not officially come out to say that it is wrong, like they have an interest in Uganda or anything. It's just, these ships hover around the waters anytime, and where they deem close is where they dock. So that is basically what they do each and every day. So it is not like because they have docked in Mombasa, they have an interest in Uganda and away from that. But as we sum up this particular talk, let's talk about Joshua Cheptegei. Joshua Cheptegei has become the pearl of Uganda yet again. He's a world record holder of the 10,000 and 5,000 meters. And yesterday he came out to win yet another race in Monaco, a 5-kilometer race that he took in only just 13 minutes. He has already done, and he was the first in the men's race. So that is another gold for Joshua Cheptegei. Remember, Joshua Cheptegei was appointed by the Uganda Tourism Board earlier on last week, and he was given the ambassadorship of Uganda and of the tourism sector and Uganda at large. So he's looking at revamping the tourism sector that has been dead for over where Uganda lost for over $16 billion. This because of the COVID-19 effects. People, a lot of tourists were not coming in. So Joshua Cheptegei is winning, and this is a tick to Uganda, and that is a congratulations to all. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the Mighty Global Update. Maybe I can tell you something small of what is happening in the United States. Donald Trump, he survives impeachment. Yes, remember he was due to be impeached by the Senate. Remember the first parliament really impeached him, but the second, that is the Senate, has failed to impeach him because he won with, I think, with 57 votes out of the 67 votes that are supposed to be cast. So Donald Trump is not going to be impeached, but if he were impeached, you would have seen a lot of things. All the security detail would have been taken away. He would not have been accepted to come back as president yet again of the Republic of the United States. So that is congratulations to you people who like Donald Trump. He survives. You never know, 2024 he will be back the political spectrum of the country. Remember, this is the Mighty Drive Show. It airs every Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. We host individuals and get some of their perspective. We get what do they think about the country and their Uganda they want. So today we are hosting Professor Mwambutysa Ndebesa. He's going to be seated here, and we're going to be dissecting some things that are happening in the political country. He'll be telling us more about himself as we unfold. This is the Mighty Drive. Let's go for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's Farida and I, plus Mr. Ndebesa right here on the Mighty Drive Show. Have yourself a good morning.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative TikTok. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative TikTok etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative TikTok.
Uganda is born again.
Mubirabye. Mubiwulidde.
And you will see what NRM means. We are going to crush those criminals.
Mubyenyigiddemu.
We are simply peacefully telling our people, say no to rigged elections.
Ebimu mubitegeera.
Naffe tusobola okutiisatiisa abo abatiisatiisa.
Oba oli awo ng'abamu mugwamu bigwe. Byabaffe byava ku ki?
Era kyova olaba baatukolera ne constitution esinga obusiru mu nsi yonna.
Bino n'ebirala birindirire buli lwa Sande okuva ku ssaawa 11 okutuuka ku ssaawa 1 ey'akawungeezi n'eyaliko Katikkiro wa Buganda Oweekitiibwa Dani Muliika ku program Eriiso ly'Omukulu ku Facebook page The Alternative Uganda.
The world is at a critical moment of providing innovative alternatives as a means to create change.
As such, we have created a not-for-profit alternative mobile digital platform as a way to promote space for freedom of speech and expression to the unheard voices.
We know you believe in the cause and you can further it more by contributing to its sustainability in forms of internet data, fuel and any other support you deem relevant.
Please support us with your contribution to Equity Bank account number 103-5201-607252 under the name Alternative Digital, or our mobile money numbers 0702-900076 or 0783-047785. Alternative Digital, real issues, real talk.
The Alternative TikTok. Real issues, real talk.
I welcome you all to our daily program, The Mighty Drive, every day, Monday to Friday, sawa everemo yokumacha paka sawa satu. Already we have a professor in the studios. We want to see his views about the concluded elections. What is next for Uganda? What should people expect? Abanopo nadala kubantu bebayina omusango mu court. Bayina chances in the cards on their side or baziliene wa President Museveni gwe bawaaba. So tubanyiriza era tubasaba mu abatana twegatako nti mweyunge ku mutimbagano gyaffe egyenjawulo ku Facebook naddala kwe tuli live. The page is the Alternative Uganda. Like the page and follow us. Ogenda kubanga ate otufuna bulungi nnyo. Alina ekibuuzo wansi mu comment section. Tekamu ekibuuzo kyo tugenda kubanga ate tukisoma. Omugenyi waffe akiddemu bulungi nnyo. A very good morning to you all. It is the Mighty Drive. I welcome you once again. Karuhanga, how was your day yesterday, the 14th of February?
My day yesterday was so excellent. I was at home. I ate a bit of meat with my family. It was a very beautiful day indeed. And I hope everybody watching the Mighty Drive also had a beautiful day as well. Because, yeah, life is all about being happy at the end of the day, right?
True.
Yes.
I would give you the pleasure, Karuhanga, to welcome our guest.
Okay, the pleasure is mine as it has been given to me by Farida. As I told you earlier on, as we are starting the show, that we're going to be hosting a professor in political science from Makerere University. He's called Mr. Mwambutysa Ndebesa. He's right here with us in the van. He's going to be telling us more about himself. And then he's going to be telling us, as a person who's experienced in the political spectrum of Africa and Uganda and the world at large, I would like to presume, he'll tell us what he thinks about the politics of today. Yes, the politics of ethnicity as people talk about. And he's just going to tell us what he thinks that we really should know in this day and era. Professor Ndebesa, you're welcome to the Mighty Drive and a good morning to you.
Thank you, and thank you to all the listeners, and good morning to everybody.
Okay, Professor, so one would want to first know, who is Professor Ndebesa? Just give us a bit of background about yourself, and yes, let the viewers know more about you.
Well, Mwambutysa Ndebesa is my name, and I prefer to call myself a citizen and not a subject. Okay. By that, I do mean that I am active in political processes in the country. I do not leave everything just the politicians. Yes. They say politics is too important to be left to only the politicians. Yes. And in that regard, I would like to call upon you, especially the listeners, the youth, that you should be active citizens. You should not leave politics to only the politicians, because when they mess up the country, you, the youth, have got a lot to lose. When the politicians who are elderly actually, who probably do not have much in the future, they mess up the politics on your behalf. So you should actively participate, whether you have a political position in the government, whether you do not have it. In whichever position you are in, you are a citizen, and a citizen is entitled to participate in the public affairs of his or her country. Do not fear to participate in politics just because you do not have a political position. You are a citizen, and by that, you are entitled to participate actively in running the public affairs of your country.
Then, Professor, one would ask that in this day and era and in Uganda today, all those youths who are trying to, come out and actively participate in politics are looked at as a target of suppression. Many of them are abducted, some are tortured, and some are disappeared in mysterious ways. Young boys in the age of 23, 25, 30s, and they disappear, and their families are on TV saying, please, please, where are our children? So what would such a youth do in such a political spectrum like Uganda?
It is a struggle. I do appreciate those challenges of harassment, persecution, but it is a struggle, because even when you don't struggle, yes, and the public affairs are messed up, you will still suffer. Whether you keep quiet or you talk, you actually when you keep quiet, you will suffer more. So you'd rather talk and suffer and having hope for the future. But if you keep quiet, the future is not certain, and therefore you need to participate in order to better the situations. When you participate actively, you will not be taken for granted. Okay. And if you keep quiet, you will be taken for granted. Okay. And the moment you are taken for granted, then that suffering you are talking about, that persecution you are talking about, yes, will be perpetuated. So you better participate in order for the future to be better and get away from this uncertain future almost permanently.
Okay. So, Professor, one would want to ask, before we delve into what is happening in our country today, I want to just inquire, why did you decide in all things to study political science and politics as such? Many people look at it as a dirty game and, a game of mischievous minds. Why did you undertake this particular,
First of all, let me make a small correction there. I am a political historian. I'm not a political scientist. However, the boundary between political science and history is blurred. It is almost not there. Possibly the right question would have been, why are you a political activist? Because there are very many political historians or political scientists who actually are not active, who could even be called subjects and not citizens. So the question would be, why am I politically active? Because even if you did political science or history or even medicine or engineering, you can still be a citizen and be politically active. Why am I a political active person? I think there is a background to that. From my childhood and from my father is against or was against social injustice. He is still against social injustice. He is now about 102 years. He is actually a Second World War veteran. Wow. He is still alive. God is still preserving him.
It's a grace.
And from him, from early times, I learned to be against injustice. So my politics is the politics against injustice. Regardless of who is practicing injustice, regardless of where the injustice is coming from, I want to correct injustice. And we have got a lot of historical injustices, but also the contemporary injustices. We want equality. The principle of equality is what we are missing in this country, in Uganda. There are those who think that they are more equal than others. There are those who think that actually they are entitled to dominate others and dominate public affairs, but also convert their positions in power into ill-gotten wealth and discriminate and exclude others from accessing public resources. Access to public resources is at the heart of my struggle for social justice. When we talk about public resources, some people even think only possibly of money. But the resource is anything that you can convert into wealth. That is the definition I would give to a resource, something that you can convert into wealth. You can convert your status into wealth. You can convert culture into wealth. You can convert education. You can convert land. You can convert education into wealth. And therefore, anything that is a public resource should be equitably distributed. Or for that matter, we need to have equal opportunities to access those public resources. I will give some examples. We do have scholarships that are offered to government or that are from government. We should all have equal opportunity to access those scholarships. Because at times we hear there are state house scholarships, we don't know who accesses them and which criteria is used to access those resources. We hear some appointments are made without adverts, and those are public resources. We hear some land is allocated without due process. That's a public resource. And all these other public resources, you see, people talk about corruption, and they narrowly define it as embezzlement of funds. Embezzlement of funds is a problem, yes, of corruption, but I don't think it is a major problem in Uganda. The major problem in Uganda is political corruption. Even rigging elections is corruption, isn't it? Why aren't we taking people who rig elections to the anti-corruption court? Because that's a very vital area of corruption, because it can lead to political instability and take the country back. But there are also those who access public resources officially. Officially, you are allocated. For example, I'm told there are some public servants in Uganda who earn something like 50 million.
Yeah, they are there.
Yes, and therefore that is official corruption, because why should somebody earn 50 million when somebody does not earn 150,000? The gap between the highest earning and the lowest earning should be nearer each other, because we are all contributing to national development.
But the minimum wage bill was passed.
Was rejected.
Was rejected by
yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. That is where now official corruption is enhanced, and just you, the youth especially, you just keep quiet about that one. There are those who access excessive allowances, and those who have got even more than one car belonging to government. So all those which the government allocates to some individuals excessively and not to others is official corruption. Appointing people to positions of responsibility without due process, without competitive processes, that is also official corruption. So corruption is not only embezzlement of funds, it is unequal treatment of citizens. And that is why even this country is still lagging behind. It is lagging behind among other factors because policies are not implemented efficiently, because people are promoted to high positions in the government, in those implementing agencies, without considering their merit.
It's not on merit.
It is not based on merit, but it is based on connections.
Yeah, who knows you?
And who knows you might be knowing you, but you don't have the right qualifications for that job. Now that is also corruption. And those are the things that we need to talk about those things, and not hide behind the facade of saying, I know me, I'm not in politics, I don't like politics, politics is a dirty game.
Yes.
See, but if you say it is a dirty game, and you leave other people to continue dirtying it, when will it be
Professor,
corrected?
allow me to interrupt you before my colleague chips in.
You are not interrupting, you are just intervening.
Intervening.
You are just coming in.
Yeah, okay.
Please.
Professor, so how did you get here? That is the question. To
Where?
To
How did we or how did I?
How did Uganda get here? How did it become a state like this one, where people are appointed, even because I've heard that some of ministers don't even have, qualifications.
Ministers, I don't mind so much. They can be there, after all, they are too many, and they don't help much. They are stepping on each other's toes, but there are those positions in public service and other agencies who are supposed to implement policies. They say Uganda makes good policies, and they are perfected in Kenya and implemented in Rwanda. So the ministers can go there and have their lunches at State House and other places and congratulate each other every time they meet. But we would want equal opportunity for public service generally, and to remunerate public servants according to their merit, not according to their connections. How did we get to this place? To this point. Uganda is in Africa, as you know. We are a former colonial state.
True.
We are not very old. We became a country since 1894. So we still are a young state, a young nation in the making. And those are some of the challenges of nation building. So it's the problem of patronage. This mwana wani, mwana wa gundi, those connections, and having patrons and clients is not limited to Uganda only. It is actually worldwide, but it is more excessive in Africa. And how we got there, as I told you, we are a young country.
Yes.
We are a heterogeneous country. We have got different ethnic groups.
Yes.
Recognized 60 in the constitution, but there are many more. Next reform of the constitution, we shall have even many more of these ethnic groups. So when sometimes people talk, the ethnic talk comes in, and it affects the process of correcting the wrong. Say, that one is saying that because he belongs to this tribe, or this one should eat because he belongs to the other tribe, and things like that. So ethnicity is one of the challenges that we have. But also we have got leaders in this country who are self-centered, who are self-seekers, who are not patriotic enough. People have been talking about patriotism. There are two types of patriotism, generally. There is constructive patriotism, and another form of patriotism, which we can term opportunistic patriotism. We are talking about the one which is upright, the upright patriotism, which is lacking in this country, but among other reasons it's lacking because we are a young country. We do not have institutions to correct the wrongs. So the challenge is also about lack of institutions, functioning institutions, that is to say, because they are institutions but not functioning as they are supposed to function. Okay. So those are some of the factors that have led to this situation. But how can we get out of it? One solution is actually the problem itself, is the lack of citizens. In the concept in which I was applying it, we have subjects and not citizens. If we had citizens and we had the general public participating effectively and not being allowed to be participated, to just call upon people, like in the recent elections, you saw youth and other elders and actually many people being participated. See, you see somebody dancing around, he's not asking hard questions, he's not telling the truth, he's not asking about issues of policy, he's just running around clapping and shouting and making and stealing elections, not concerned about the public affairs of this country. So the citizen, the population itself has led this country to be where it is.
Now, talking
in our vernacular, you see, the citizens are the owners of this country.
Yes.
Ideally, citizens should be the owners of this country, not necessarily the leaders. And in my language, they say, "Ngunyine kakwa byamiro rimi, enyena zitwe shabo." If the family head does not reign upon the young ones and the other people at home that please and talk, then the calves will sleep in cow urine and cow dung, you know. They will not clean the cattle kraal or the cattle hut. Yes. So we, the owners of Uganda, the citizens, are the nyineka, are the heads of Uganda. So now if we sleep on our tongue, then the calves, which is the resources of this country, will sleep in the cow dung. So that is why I call upon the citizens, especially the youth, who are active, who have the energy, who are energetic, to come up and demand their rights as citizens so that their calves do not sleep in the cow dung and cow urine.
Professor, talking about being active, participating, we as the youth, I think we are doing some great work. Professor, I would really want you to describe for us the just concluded elections. How do you describe such? Was it an election process? What was it?
It was something similar to an election. It was a sham election, and it is going to lead to sham it has led to sham outcome, and it will lead to sham democracy. It was sham in many respects than one. I will mention some.
Yes.
There is no election worth its name where people go and participate in voting without open campaigns. That is not an election. Either we had to postpone this election or we have no election at all. To restrict people from campaigning was the worst thing that would happen to any democracy. For you to say that somebody should invite 200 people, first of all, you listen to this one, to invite them. If I am going to invite you, it means I know you.
True.
Yes. and it means you are my friend. Now, how do you invite people you know to come for your rally? To listen to what, since they are already converted? I have in the past compared it to a crusade, a Christian crusade, these open crusades. So you have an open Christian crusade here in Imperial, in the field, and you only invite the saved ones. So whom are you coming to convert? They are already saved, they are already converted to Christianity and to Christ. So you are you having a crusade or something else? So a political rally must be a rally where both your supporters and non-supporters attend. Everybody. So that those who don't support you can be converted to your ideas and to your mannerisms and to your programs and whatever. But to say that you invite the people you know, that wouldn't be a campaign. Possibly that would be a strategic meeting for campaigns, not a campaign. So there was no campaign. So how can you tell me that there was an election in a country where there were no campaigns? It is stupid. It doesn't make sense at all, at all. Yeah. So that was the first challenge in these elections. But even before the elections, they delayed the electoral laws, deliberately, by the way. Electoral laws were deliberately delayed in order to stampede people into the elections. And then the consultations by the potential candidates, especially presidential candidates, but even parliamentary candidates, were also limited. Actually, not only limited, they were not allowed.
But then, Professor, one would say that we all know that there was a pandemic, COVID-19, and it is here and it was a threat and it has claimed over, a lot of people, people's lives, millions, if we talk about the world.
No, not in Uganda.
I'm talking about the world at large. So, because of this, I think the government was saying, COVID-19 is here, so you have to do it responsibly.
There is nothing responsible. It was a responsibility to hold any political exercise like elections during campaigns. Actually, God had mercy on us. First of all, even in that limited campaign, there was a lot of interaction of people.
True.
The police itself, which was arresting people, I could see them arresting people without masks and putting them in a van, a closed van, and putting them in congested prisons. That in itself was going to spread.
More political than COVID.
Was going to spread COVID.
Yes.
So the right thing to have been done was to postpone elections. We have postponed many things. We have even amended the constitution. We are even amending it right now for no good reason. Because let me explain to the viewers and listeners this whole notion of the term limits.
Yes.
The NRM government and President Museveni, last time in 2000 and was it 6 or 5?
2005.
When they were moving term limits.
Yeah, that was 2005.
Yes, the reason given was that term limits were restricting and limiting and making the constitution inflexible. That the constitution would not be flexible when you put such high limitations. Granted, that was the argument, that was the logic. It was a sham, it was a lie. Let me tell anybody who participated in that exercise that he's a liar. The same parliament, the same government, the same party that said that having term limits creates limitations, creates restrictions in the constitution, which is not good for democracy. The same party, the same parliament, the same people are saying we now remove term limits. Sometimes I don't understand how people think that Ugandans are just imbeciles. You removed term limits because they were creating restrictions in the constitution. You are now returning them, giving the same argument, giving the reverse argument that it is good.
That it is good to have term limits.
That it is good to have term limits.
But we've seen.
But don't you see that that is really hypocrisy?
Professor, let's talk
those
about
are lies.
This government has been seen taking back decisions they've made and doing the same thing. I think
that means they are not fair. That means they are not fair. They are liars.
In 1996, President Museveni said the problem with Africa was leaders who overstay in power. And now he comes back and he says leaders overstay in power without the mandate of the people.
Well, that one was amending the words, the Animal Farm, George Orwellian.
Yeah,
that is Orwellian style.
I remember
those
George
of you who have ever read Animal Farm, when they would say that 2 legs bad, 4 legs.
Yes.
But later
but
changed.
Later, the people, the 2 legs were the good ones.
Were the best.
Yes.
Now, let's leave that matter. Let's first conclude this hypocrisy and lies about term limits, which is now in Parliament.
Yes, sir.
The same group that removed term limits, giving us the reasons that it is because we don't want a rigid constitution.
Yes.
We don't want rigid articles in the constitution. They are undemocratic. The same group is saying, let's return term limits. Really, you Ugandans, if you want to see hypocrisy of the highest order, you follow the debate about term limits. You know that the reasons for removal of term limits in 2005 were not that those they were saying. And therefore, next time you are listening to politicians, do not take what they say at face value. This was a total lie. And it has been exposed not by any other external person, by the same liars who brought that removal of term limits because they were creating rigidities. The same group, the same people, the same politicians turn around and say, now let us bring back term limits.
But I think that is giving hope to Ugandans that at least
no.
mistake.
But that is taking us here and there, because that means in the future they will even remove them again. They remove that term limit they have brought. You don't play around with the constitution. A constitution is supposed to be like sacred. You know, the religious term, if I can use a religious term, it's supposed to be sacred and not be manipulated by the wishes of anybody. It is like having a football match and you are playing football, and when somebody is about to score, you remove the goal post. You just allow people to score, to play. When they are about to score, you remove the goal post. And then you bring them back when you feel like you are now strong in the field. I mean, a constitution is supposed to be a document that is guiding the country towards the democratic path, but also statehood, state building. So that we believe in that constitution, and that belief and those norms of a constitution can build a nation. But you just get a constitution, you just say, we have removed term limits, then tomorrow you say we have returned them. You wait when President Museveni is 94. The same people will bring age limit back. They say age limit now good. Today, term limits are bad. Tomorrow, term limits are good. Today, age limit is bad. Tomorrow, it is going to be good. Why do we play around with nation building? How? Why? Yeah. Me, I get annoyed. Okay. Ugandans should get annoyed. Why play around with nation building?
These games that are being played in Parliament, who do they favor?
You're asking the obvious. I don't know, we call that one truism in academia. They definitely favor those who make them.
In the just concluded elections, Justice Byabakama, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, said or announced that the number of invalid votes increased. Okusinzira ku buli obwa 2016. We really want Professor to comment on both the increased number of invalid votes and the number of people that didn't vote.
There is no there are very few invalid votes. That was deliberately done. In some places, especially in Western Uganda, which I know of, whenever somebody like Chaguranyi would people would vote for Chaguranyi, they would cancel it. They would cancel the vote and say, that's an invalid vote. Who doesn't know that? You think we are stupid? Go and ask the people there. They know that they would invalidate the vote.
Okay. Well,
because so and so didn't have an agent, they would just invalidate it. So that's not true. Secondly, the voter turn-up even the voter turn-up was relatively low.
Yes.
But even the voter turn-up that we are given by Byabakama, is it Byabakama or Byamakama? Byabakama.
Yes.
Is not the right number. The number of people who voted might have been 50%, not 58%. Because where all the presidential candidates did not have agents, what happened is that there was what we would call ballot stuffing, but in this manner, that the people who didn't turn up, the presiding officers would vote for them. Would vote for some candidate they would put there. That is why you discover that in most cases, in some of such areas where there were no agents of opposition candidates or other candidates, the same day when there were presidential elections, elections for the president, was the same day, same venue, same everything for the woman MP for the district.
Yes.
You will find that the woman MP has less voters than the president.
But
That is an indicator that because the woman candidate, the woman MP candidate had agents there. They would not allow people to come and vote for others in their favor against their candidate. So what they would do, they would just give real ballots for casting for the woman, and then later vote for those who were not there for the president. In most cases.
That's why we even saw 100% voter turnout in places like those.
Isn't it possible that I will come and vote for the president and not vote for the
rationally, yeah. No, rationally it is true.
It is possible.
It is possible, it is true, but it was not the case. In most cases in upcountry areas, people are not so smart as in urban centers. That can happen mostly in urban centers. In rural areas, people have got, when they come to vote, they have got the urge to vote both candidates. And how come that trend we are talking about is in areas where the presidential candidates didn't have agents? You see, that trend of the presidential votes being more than that of the woman are in areas where there were no agents. That means that there was that voting of people who did not turn up. And the people know, you and me and everybody knows, that there are people who would not have turned up, but they would be voted for. People know, if you go and ask them, they will tell you, even me, I didn't vote myself because I am a voter up country and I didn't have logistics to go home and vote. I can almost swear, almost sure by 90%, that if you go there, you find that you voted in absentia. So that is the problem. So the voter turn-up was not even 58%. It was less than that in that respect. And the so-called invalid votes, some of them, of course, there are some which are invalid genuinely, but some of them was that they would read somebody and then the presiding officers would cancel, would put there a cancel, would cancel, put there a tick in order to invalidate that vote because there is no agent of that candidate.
Before we go for a short commercial break, Professor, I'd like you to talk about the elections, because we've had, from 2001, we've had people petitioning the elections and they're saying they are not free and fair, but we end up still going back to the same electoral process and they still are elections again, and then we settle for another 5 years and then come back again and it's the same story.
So what is your question?
Why is it that we still go back to this particular sham elections and we still argue that, you know, the election is being rigged?
Well, elections is the purpose of going for elections is not only for winning.
Yes.
The winning is a principal one, it's very important.
Yes, Professor.
But elections is also an occasion for other activities.
Yes.
So you can win, you can participate in elections knowing that it will be rigged, but because you want to use it as an occasion for mobilizing citizens for your political support. So you just go into that election. It is better than just giving up and boycotting. So that's one. It is part of political education. If you want to carry out political education, sensitization against injustices, then you can participate in an election knowing that it would be rigged. I will give you an example of UPM.
Yes, yeah.
UPM in 1980, I don't think that UPM and Museveni participated in 1980 elections expecting to win. Even if the elections were not rigged, definitely the party was new, it has no resources, it was not having a national profile, but nevertheless they participated. And it is those who stood or became more active in that election, in support of UPM, who actually went to the bush. So it was used as a mobilization instrument and tool for going to the bush. So people participate in elections for different goals and reasons, but also it is good to participate so that you expose some of these irregularities. Relatedly, it is related to petitioning. Some would argue that why do you petition when you know the court is going to uphold the results? Yes, but on one hand you can see the point there, but on the other hand you participate in order to expose some of these irregularities so that they can be corrected. Or even if they are not corrected, they are exposed for posterity. So it is also good to participate so that you expose some of these irregularities. They are noted, they are observed, and they can help in the politics of correcting the wrongs in the future. Well knowing that the courts will not actually be impartial. I mean, like Royal Mabirizi has already petitioned against the Chief Justice. And I think he has a point to some extent. I mean, if you were the lawyer of a candidate, is it 15 years ago, the same candidate is under a similar dispute, how do we expect you to be impartial when you were overwhelmingly, excitedly supporting that candidate? Now you are supposed to be an arbiter. It is not humanly possible. And therefore, Maviris has some point in that regard. It is not humanly possible that you are an activist in defending a candidate and all of a sudden that you can rule against that candidate. But by the same Chief Justice, by the way, was a minister in this government. In this government of NRM, he was a cabinet minister, and he has he had sworn collective responsibility. I do not believe that collective responsibility has really disappeared from his attitudes and mind.
Okay. At just 58 minutes past 7 a.m., we are going to go for a short commercial break. Remember, this is the Mighty Drive. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, and as I've told you, we are hosting a professor, Mr. Ndebesa. He's right here. And as we go for a short commercial break, when we come back, we're going to be talking about these political abductions. We are seeing a lot of torture, we are seeing a lot of disappearances, and we are seeing a lot of ethnicity. So the politics of ethnicity, the politics of abductions, the politics of torture, what next for our country in this particular spectrum? This is the Mighty Drive. My name is Edgar, and let's go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we're still with Professor Ndebesa. It's the Mighty Drive. Good morning.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. with our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the alternative digital etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugende mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative TikTok.
The world is at a critical moment of providing innovative alternatives as a means to create change.
As such, we have created a not-for-profit alternative mobile digital platform as a way to promote space for freedom of speech and expression to the unheard voices.
We know you believe in the cause and you can further it more by contributing to its sustainability in forms of internet data, fuel and any other support you deem relevant.
Please support us with your contribution to Equity Bank account number 103-5201-607252 under the name Alternative Digital, or our mobile money numbers 0702 900076 or 0783 047785. Alternative Digital, real issues, real talk.
The Alternative TikTok. Real issues, real talk.
Mukulikeyo mukuwumulamu okwo tukyaline Professor Mwambutysa Ndebesa mu studios ndowooza gwe atulaba olina kyoyiga. Njagala te okubategeeza nti we are in our second hour. Ayagala okuba in our studios okwogerako n'omugenyi waffe. You can call in. Our studio line is 0789 017 145 0789 017 145. Osobola otukubirako ate n'oyogerako n'omugenyi waffe mu studios. Ate n'ekirala that is coming up, our next event is a book launch on the 26th of March this year, 2021. It will be a Friday, it will be the last week of March. It is a book launch of retired Justice Professor George Kanyehamba. It will be a very big event, so tubakubiriza whoever would want to attend. Please reach on to us, the Alternative Digital. We are the main organizers. We have the tickets. Netukubulira ate ticket yegenda for how much, tugenda kubeera all the information. So njagadde kayisewo mukategeredde. We have Professor. We thought that his audience would love to know about the launch. So we have a book launch. It is really good, especially for the lawyers and the law students. It is the evolution of constitutionalism, public law and the government. It is actually going to be a textbook, most especially for universities, for school of law. So tubakubiriza bamikwano mujje mubeerewo mujje mugula akatabo musome mufune information. Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, you told me you really want to do law. So I think you would be one of the first people to attend the event.
Of course I'll be there. I'll be the first one and I'll be on the front line.
Professor, you said Mwami Chairman Vyabakama, the number that he announced of the voter turn-up was really the right number. Yes. And you say the right number was below 50. What caused the low voter turn-up?
Well, I don't know because I have not done research, but you can just have a considered guess. That one is that because there was no political campaigning, and so people saw no reason why they should participate when they have not heard from the candidates. I think that is one of the factors that may have led to the low turn-up. But the other one could be that people have kind of become despondent, and they think that actually there is no need to go. The results are already known because the electoral laws did not, the electoral reform proposals were rejected, particularly on the question of having an independent electoral commission. Independent in the true sense of the word, not in just in a name. Because people did not expect such an electoral commission that is biased, that was appointed by an individual who is a candidate to balance, to be balanced. No. They didn't expect it because some of those people were activists. For example, the FDC did not expect much results since Byabakama himself was a prosecutor of their prominent man, the Chisa Besige, because it was really obviously biased that this person is the one who prosecuted Besige in a case which was ruled in favor of Besige and exposing all the possible lies that were being put forward by the prosecution side, and the chief prosecutor is now the arbiter in an election. So people were saying now, what are we going to do in this election? Because you find some members of the Electoral Commission were active members in the ruling party. One of them actually was a chairman of a district. So how do you expect that person to rule against his party, for which he believed in, for which he was an activist, for which he was a leader, and then he's appointed the arbiter in that election? So some people were just saying, why do we participate in an exercise whose results are already out? They are already known, so let's not bother ourselves to go and participate in an election, in elections. But some other hidden reasons may need a lot of scrutiny, because at times we don't believe that that number of registered voters was a correct number, because it seems to be a little bit high, considering that there are very many citizens who never registered to vote, who are not registered voters. But you find the number that of registered voters is so high. So you could find that some of the people who registered were possibly underage, or somehow the number is not correct. So there are many other factors, but I think they are all the reasons why people did not bother to vote.
Okay, because for me, I wanted to talk about the same election. We saw that in this election there has been a lot of sectarianism, as referred to by President Museveni himself, asserting that the Baganda were being tribal as they were voting Mr. Kyagulanyi. But then the Kyagulanyi camp would also fire back, saying that President Museveni in the Western region, he had a lot of votes there. I think he won all the Western districts, according to the Electoral Commission. So now that brings in a politics of ethnicity. What is next for Uganda in this time, where people are now looking at their tribes, talking about sectarianism, and they are saying that people are now dividing themselves. We're seeing people even spreading voice notes and publishing information saying that that person, the returning officer of this district, is from this area and
is of this tribe.
Is of this tribe, and they're saying all the big positions are taken up. I think there is a lot of tribal talk. why are we looking at tribes in this day and era where people are developed and no longer thinking about those things? People are intermarried, you know. Why is it that it's coming back right now?
That's an indicator that there is not yet a fundamental change.
Like
because the one they talked about 35 years ago, that this was going to be a fundamental change, and now there is no fundamental change. So that is a vote of no confidence in the fundamental change, since we have gone back to the 1960s. Ethnicity or tribalism is not natural. It is socially constructed. It is socially constructed. If you practice nationalism and you don't practice ethnicity as a government or as leaders of people, you will discourage sectarianism, as they call it. President Nyerere discouraged it, and it worked. Nyerere, by the way, was in power for only 26 years. People may think he was there for such a long time. He was there for only 26 years. He managed to build a nation in Tanzania because he never practiced that ethnicity or tribalism, if you want. I'm using the illustration of Nyerere, who was the president for 26 years, and he voluntarily left even when the party did not want him to leave. He told them that, by the way, me, I am not standing, whether you want it or not. Anyway, I've finished. Full stop. And they had to look for another candidate. He was still, by then he was not yet even sick. In fact, he remained as a party chairman for another 5 years. So he refused. But two is that as a person from Musoma region, which is around Lake Victoria region, as a Zanake, he actually deliberately wanted to integrate Tanzania and left his successor as President Mwinyi from Zanzibar. And Nyerere, as a Christian Catholic, he deliberately wanted to leave behind also a Muslim, because Tanzania is almost 50-50 Muslim Christians. So that was a deliberate move to counter this possible ethnic and religious identities. So he left Zanzibari, he left also a Muslim. And subsequently, even when he was still alive and had the influence on Chama cha Mapinduzi, the ruling party, he also advised that let us regionally have somebody from another region away from, say, Lake Victoria region. So he supported Mokapa. Mokapa is a Nyakyusa, or related to Nyakyusa. These are people bordering Mozambique and the Christian. And this time not a Roman Catholic. So he was trying to balance the tribes and religions and regions. Let's do it in Uganda. You will see these tendencies going away. Do not think that people are tribalistic because they are tribalistic or by nature or something like that. And do not claim that you'll go there and proselytize and talk and do siyasa and you think people will stop tribalism. When you are practicing tribalism, find somebody saying he's not sectarian and he's condemning sectarianism, when he's sectarian, even when he's talking. And you expect the other people to not to follow. You think people don't understand? Make sure that when you are appointing people to high positions of government or influence, you appoint those who merit to be there, not necessarily because you are connected with them through identity, through this what we call in political science talk, primordial connections. Then the people will be national, will be nationalistic gradually. But if they see what you are practicing is not what you are saying, you are talking.
You are preaching water, but you are drinking wine.
You are drinking wine, they will also look for wine. They will also look for ways in which you drank wine in order to drink wine as well. So we must practice what we say, and we shall reduce sectarianism. Therefore, this kind of a step back is due to public practices. It is mainly practices in public life that make people look to their ethnic groups and practice that one. So, yeah, it is true. There is a voting pattern in Uganda now that is along sectarian lines, which is very unfortunate. That is going steps backward. But then the solution is not talking about it. The solution is practicing non-sectarianism when you are in position of responsibility. In some of our languages, in my language, they say, when you steal while you are carrying a baby on your back, you are showing that baby how to steal as well. So if you are leaders of a country and you are practicing sectarianism, you expect the citizens, the followers, the voters to do a similar thing. Okay. Discourage it from yourself, it will also be discouraged from them. And that is the way to go, but not just to pay lip service to sectarianism. When everybody around is practicing it, the others will also say, let's do it as well. After all, everybody is doing it. And that's the challenge, and it is very unfortunate. We should work towards being a nation, but we have failed to build a nation. We are still a geographic expression. I've said it here before, and I will say it again, that we are just mere geographic expression. We have not attained statehood, and the ingredients and elements of statehood are actually not visible. We are regressing, and we need to sit back, reflect on these things, and address them. If we don't address them, we are going to have challenges. You want to go back to my earlier submission about resources, because political positions are resources. People have converted them into wealth, haven't they? And everybody knows that. So why don't we have these political resources equally and equitably distributed, and you will see whether people will not run away from this so-called sectarianism.
Professor, when President Museveni was declared the winner, he came out and gave a speech. I really want you to comment on President Museveni's speech after being declared the winner, and the speech of Saturday, where he said that it is the opposition members that are playing these games to taint his government.
Well, a politician will always make those speeches. So I don't know whether I have much to comment upon that, because you didn't expect him to say that he was wrong or he practiced this or that, which is not in line with the principles of democracy. But what I would have wanted to hear from his speeches and previous speeches, victory speeches, is to reach out to the other players, so that there is a harmony in moving the country, political consensus. Now, he hinted on in one of his comments on working with the people who were opposed to him. I beg to disagree with President Museveni. Yes, he has reached out to some individuals and brought them to work in his government, and he has done this since he came into power. But it is not that what Ugandans want. You reach out to the organization rather than picking out an individual to bring him or her.
Because that is what it's actually is done. Those individuals, and when one keeps quiet, I think he feels like
it doesn't work. He brought this lady Nachiwara Chiyinji from DP. He packed her from DP and made her a minister. She went back at this time and lost miserably in Masaka region. So it does not work. You reach out to DP, should have reached out to DP and the DP leadership and tried to have their collective views harmonized with the collective views of the NRM. But picking individuals and coming and factoring them into your government is not being magnanimous. That is what is called co-optation. Co-optation of individuals as a patron. You co-opt a client, but that does not solve the political disagreement. Because this political disagreement is not between you and another individual. It's a collective. It is a political disagreement between that group and your group. And therefore, we want group politics, not individual politics, which is co-optation and individualism. And that will not take this country ahead to build a nation and to build democracy. I hope people understand the difference between co-opting individuals from an organization into your party and bringing the whole party to the drawing board, and you discuss the political disagreements and try to harmonize and have a minimum political consensus to move the country ahead, but not to pluck individuals from those organizations. So what he has been doing since 1986 is getting individuals. You got Semogere, but you didn't get DP. You just go and get somebody from UPC, but you have not brought on board UPC. You get somebody from one region, but that doesn't mean that you have brought the whole region to the government. I think that is a fundamental difference between co-optation and genuine and fundamental bringing people on board. So I think people, listeners out there, should understand those two principal differences. Because politics, as I have said before, here and elsewhere, in terms of bringing people together and factoring them in government and all that, politics is not arithmetical. Politics is algebraic. I did it last time, but I can do it again. You see, in algebra, when you say 2a plus 8b is equal to this, it does not follow that 2a is smaller than 8b unless you know the value of a. You get it now?
Yes.
Unless you know the value of a, you cannot say 8b is greater than 2a. You might find the value of a is far, far greater than b, and therefore when you multiply 2 plus that a, it will be more than 8b, depending on the value of b versus a. That is algebra. Don't make it arithmetical, that you are adding this person, that person. What do I mean here? You might get 8 people from one region and one person from another region, but you find that one person has got more influence than the 8 combined. So that is why politics is algebraic. It is not arithmetical. So when you are plucking individuals from the various political parties, you may go for those ones with less political influence. And then you go to another region or party or organization or tribe or a region, you get from there very many people, but with less influence than one person whom you got from a different region or tribe or a region. So let's go beyond surfaces and understand politics from that angle. Let's not jubilate around, hey, you know, yes, I also have a minister from my area, I have a vice president, or I have an army commander, but underneath you find that person has a responsibility without authority. And yet, you can have 10 of them or 20 of them, but one person or 2 people from a different religion or whatever have got authorities. I think people have heard that some ministers have less authority than their personal assistants in this country. So let's go beyond the surface and go underneath and look at algebra, the political algebra, not political arithmetic. and understand some of these issues. So when after elections you want to bring about harmony, political consensus, political understanding to move the country ahead, be genuine and be open and offer an olive branch to organizations that you are competing with, not merely an individual that you will factor in and he will end up being an arithmetical figure.
It's still the Mighty Drive show with me, Edgar Matthew Karohanga, and Farida Bikobere. As I told you, we are having a professor, Mr. Ndebesa. He's right here telling us a bit about the political spectrum of the country and what he thinks of what is happening today in our country. Now, let me go back to you, Professor. We've seen a lot of disappearances. Over 50 people have been reported missing, and the government says they only have, I think, 31, and they say they don't know the other number where it is. And people are even asserting that these numbers are even more than what the government is actually saying. So, Professor, we saw these kind of things back then in 1970s when President Amin was there, and I think President Obote. That is when we saw people just disappearing like that out of thin air, and you don't see them again, you don't have a trace of them again. And I think these things are the ones that are cropping up yet again in 2021, 35 years down the road. So, Professor, my question is to you, how do we really change this? And before we look at how we change it, why have we resorted back to where we were?
You are again bringing out another issue of no fundamental change. So there is no fundamental change. Since 35 years ago, people were disappearing incognito, and they are disappearing today. So where is the fundamental change? So there is no fundamental change. Of course, there has been change, but the issue, the key and operative word is a fundamental change. So no fundamental change. But even the number you have given of SAT is not so correct. I think I listened to the president, he has said there are very many. There are very many who are in their custody, and there are different security organizations. You know, harmonizing them is not easy. The police has, CMI has, the commandos have, and all these people have. So we don't know who is being held by which organization. So the numbers they are giving out might not be the correct ones, and he was not even specific, because I could see his arithmetic was not adding up. Yes, disappearances will continue to take place as long as there is a political disagreement that those in power have refused to discuss amicably through a dialogue. Because you cannot force people to believe in you, to follow you, to be part of you in the 21st century. And so people will disagree with you, but if they disagree with you, and principally you do not believe in the principle of dialogue and peaceful resolution of fundamental conflicts, then you resort to use of force. And people should be reminded that the NRM has never divorced itself from the army. Because the NRM in the bush had a military wing, the NRA. And you had recently on the 6th of February, UPDF was commemorating 40 years. In other words, it has continued. So so it is NRA by a different name. And therefore UPDF is a military wing of NRM. And therefore, since the military wing is supposed to use the military in politics, it is still the same thing. We are continuing. So we shall have more people disappear in that context. Because, for example, the president address did not even address the question of, since those people have been arrested by these security operatives, they are not supposed to be kept out of court for 48 hours. That means it's an admission that the government, the security forces, were flouting law. Actually, Sam Mabiri's lawyer should take the government to court. Why do you keep those people, those suspects, for more than 48 hours? That shows that is a disappearance, actually. And I could see the president was saying it with a face that was feeling uncomfortable, because he knew that those people have been kept away without being taken to court in 48 hours, not even in 1 week. They have been kept away for 1 month.
Do we still have rule of law and constitution?
Do we have still a rule of law? That's what we are supposed to have. That's what we are supposed to have. But you and me, and right now in this discussion, we are saying there is no rule of law, because the constitution clearly and the law state it should be 48 hours.
Yes.
But you have just arrested people, kept them away for more than 48 hours, and those who are saying they are disappearances or they are kidnaps, they are right, because according to the law, if you are kept away, I think for more than 48 hours, then that's a kidnap, that's not an arrest, because a legal arrest should keep you away for less than 48 hours. So we have a challenge, and you, the youth, should challenge that challenge, should speak the truth to power so that we correct the wrongs. Otherwise, if we are going to arrest people like that and not produce them in the courts of law, now if you arrest me and you keep me away for 2 months and then all of a sudden you say, I have released you, shouldn't I take you to court and I'm entitled to compensation for all those inconveniences?
Are completely disappearing and not returning to the face of Ugandans. They are not seeing
Those who are returning are dead.
Some are returning tortured, extremely tortured, and some are not there. They are not seen.
I think those who are saying that they are those who have been abducted and killed and don't return should document those and should go to the courts of law, should go to the Human Rights Commission, and should expose them to the media, so that we know there are certain people who have got lost and disappeared completely, and we should have a list of them published by especially the organizations to which they belonged, so that this goes into the public domain, and we know that such and such a people disappeared without trace for 6 months, and the government, even, by the way, even if the government didn't abduct them, still the government has the responsibility to find out.
No. That is what they came out and said. JJ Odong, the Minister of Internal Affairs, came out and said.
No, JJ Odong is the arithmetic fellow I was talking about. Don't bother with arithmetic. Don't bother with arithmetic. Let's be serious.
And the people don't know where they are, and the government.
Yeah, but the president said we have them. The president said we have them. After Odong, the president said we have them. So why are you bothered about arithmetic? Let's go to algebra. Let's go to algebra. The president said we have them. Why are you bothered with algebra? With arithmetic? Let's go to algebra, you youth.
Professor, let us look at the Parliament of Uganda that we are going to have 2021-2026. That's if they've not amended their term to 7 years. We are having 529 MPs in that house. That is a very big parliament. We really want, Professor, you to comment on the size of the parliament that Uganda would have that is meaningful and active, instead of that big parliament, because we are seeing many MPs are not going to have a word in that parliament for the next 5 years because of the number of MPs that are in there.
I am afraid because of this politics of patronage and non-principles, I want to make a statement and I want somebody to challenge it and help me to understand, but I want to make this statement that Uganda has the highest number of MPs per capita in the whole world. I want to repeat it, not the word per capita. That when you consider the population of Uganda and the number of MPs, I want to believe that Uganda has the highest number of MPs per capita in the whole world. And yet Uganda is a least developed country. It is a narrow DC. It should not be affording such a big administrative costs. Uganda is a narrow DC with a GDP of $30 billion. $30 billion. Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, has got a turnover of $700 billion US dollars. He's I don't know how many times richer than Uganda. That boy of 40 years. And here we are dancing around with so many number of MPs, so number of districts, so number of councillors. Actually, it is said by, I think the statistics are with SEDU, that Uganda has about 2.7 million elected officials.
Yes.
And when you put them per capita, you find that every 15 people have an elected official.
Yes.
That is so high. USA, which has 50 million people, yes, with the resources, I don't know how many times that of Uganda, is said to have less than 1,000 elected officials. Now, you are talking about the MPs. Yeah, we are going to have the MPs who are going to be stepping on each other's toes rather than legislating. But they will just be there to represent the government to the party, because they will not be representatives of the people to the government. They will be representatives of government to the party or to the people. And each MP is likely to be given 1 minute now, or 1.5 minutes to speak. How can you argue a case in 1.5 minutes? So this shows you that the parliament is just a rubber stamp. It's a rubber stamp in the sense that members of parliament have been sent there either to be listening posts, like President Museveni says in respect of the army, or just to be numbers to vote government bills. So in other words, the Parliament of Uganda is not going to be making laws, it is going to be endorsing bills from government. That is its duty, that's the responsibility of the current Parliament, because it is too big, it is too bloated, we don't have time, members of Parliament don't have time. So theirs is to be there in order to legitimize government policies and government bills. So theirs is legitimizing, is rubber stamping, is not legislating. And we are going to have more MPs in the next elections you talked about. Yeah. Expect the number to go to 600 plus, just because they want to use them as patronage, as clients. The patronage will use them as clients in order to endorse, rubber stamp, legitimize government policies. That will be their role, and they are going to demand for more. You wait, they are going to ask for big cars, big allowances, allowances that are not taxed when every public servant, even when you earn a lunch of 10,000, it is taxed. Theirs are not taxed. So it is...
They are even planning to start taxing the withdrawals from ATMs.
They will do anything in order to subsidize that bloated parliament. Not only parliament, the national parliament, but even local governments, these cities they have created and all that. And that's why Uganda remains in this circus of poverty. Instead of saving resources and money for public investment, it is going to be spent on public expenditure, on public governance expenditure. That is why we shall remain in this state. And Ugandans good enough don't know, for the government, they don't know that we are a poor country. Kenya is a middle income country. It is going to a higher middle income, by the way. Tanzania is already middle income. Rwanda is also ahead of us in going to a middle income because its GDP per capita is higher than that of Uganda. But Ugandans are here, they say they are happy, they are dancing around. You know, happiness is determined by many factors. Even when you are on a weed, on enjoy, you are happy. So Ugandans are happy, they are on political enjoy. You see them clapping and smiling.
I remember them promising that by 2020 Uganda is going to be a middle income country.
Okay, now isn't it? It is not 2021. And are we even nearer? Because to be a middle income country, you are supposed to have $1,100 GDP per capita. We are now at 800, maybe less now because of COVID and the lockdowns. We are less than 800. And to move from 800 even to 900 can take us 10 years. It's not an easy thing to do. So the target for the last elections, 2016, was Uganda would be a middle income country by 2020. We are not anywhere nearer. We are so poor. Our quality of education is coming down now. Kenya, which we used to be ahead very much, and Tanzania, they are now ahead of us in the quality of education. That translates into health services. When other countries are now buying COVID vaccines, we are just here marking time and just making funny statements about disappearances.
The money that is going to buy the COVID-19.
But what amount? It's just very little.
291 billion. That is
to buy how?
18 million doses. That means
that's 9 million people. That's what percentage of Uganda is that now? That's peanuts.
Professor, I want to get your mind as a professor and a land gentleman. I'd like to find out. Uganda has had what they call infrastructure development. That is what they say that, you know, the roads are good. We had an employment rate was at this time, now it's at this time. They talk about a lot of development in terms of infrastructure, but we've not seen human-centered development. People do not have money in their wallets.
But even infrastructure you are talking about,
yeah, that is
people,
what
that's ignorance.
This government brags about.
How many meters of railway lines have we constructed? Isn't that an infrastructure?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah?
They boast about the 4,000 kilometers they've worked on, you know.
Infrastructure even includes the internet infrastructure. Do you know that we are behind East African region, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya? That's infrastructure. So just putting up roads only, yeah, some extent roads, but can you do a comparative study and you tell me that Uganda has constructed even more tarmac roads than Tanzania or Kenya? It has not. It has not. But yes, there have been roads constructed.
How do you get that human-centered development, that human-centered, you know, sustenance? So
call it actually human development.
Yeah, human development.
These days we no longer only use development indicators only in terms of GDP and GDP per capita, but also in terms of human development. Uganda is now number 30 from below in terms of human development. We would even be worse than that if we didn't have good climate and good soils and therefore food. Because human development, they factor in issues of nutrition, health, and things like that. So we are number 30 from below. And a fundamental change that we are number 30 in terms of human development. In other words, we need to have a shift of focus from economic growth to development, human development. Here we are talking about health. We are talking about access to health services, access to water and sanitation, access to quality education, access reducing mortality rates, child mortality rates, maternal mortality rates. Can we focus on those? These days we are also looking at environmental protection as a development indicator. Because if you are not sustainably developing, that's not an indicator. But even in political development, where do we feature in terms of freedom indices? According to Global Freedom Index, where do we feature? In terms of nutrition, food security and nutrition, where do we feature? In other words, that is the debate we would want to be between the development of things and the development of people. The government seems to be focusing on development of things, not the development of the people, and yet it is the people's government. So it is ironical that the people's government concentrates, prioritizes development of things, not the development of people. That's a contradiction. That's an irony. And that's why we need the political parties to be discussing these diverging views so that we can find a convergence. Development of people versus development of things. Does development of things take precedence over development of people, or development of people over the development of things? Countries that have developed, that are called developed in the world, are about the development of the people, not the development of the things. That's why if you look at the GDP per capita in the Arab world, like Kuwait, they are even much more than USA.
Yes.
But they are not developed because they have not developed science and technology. Take our friend, the former president of Libya, Muammar Gaddafi. This is a person whom they said had brought development to Libya, but was being looked after by a nurse from Hungary. That in terms of doctors and research and whatever, instead of investing all those petrodollars in improving human development, he invested it in arms and ammunition and whatever that the Libyans are killing each other with.
Isn't it what is here? Because the security is the biggest, the people who get the biggest share of the
No, let's not get it wrong that we don't need security, but having security does not mean that we cannot concentrate on human development, like education, for example. This business of meddling with education, really, and now removing, it is popular that nursery schools were doing very well. And I think they were. But they are saying, those ones, you remove them. PTA, that is Parents Teachers Association, governed and ran schools during the turbulent days of Idi Amin. And education remained qualitative in Uganda during the 1970s. This government has removed PTA from management of schools. That is a very big mistake. That is less consultative, and yet we are promised under fundamental change that we should have participatory democracy. Participatory democracy should not be only like lip service and remain even in having more LOCs. It should also be reflected in PTA, for example, in management of schools. So where did they get this idea of banning nursery schools? And mind you, their children will go to nursery schools. If not in Uganda, they will be taken out of Uganda and attend nursery schools to come and rule those ones who did not go to nursery schools. Like it is happening now, they are praising UPE, but UPE graduates are going to be ruled by those who are taking their children to private schools, private schools. Now they have moved from private schools to international schools. And these are people who are going to learn new competencies like computer, IT, and all those, and financial, whatever. They will come and dominate those who are from UPE. So they are going to take those poor peasant people to UPE schools, and they remain there. There will never be social mobility. In the past, I am from a peasant family, and now I'm teaching at a university. My father is illiterate. I highly doubt how many children of illiterate people from a rural setting are likely to make it like we used to do, because they are going to go to UPE, primary, UPE, secondary, and UPE university. And they will not get the necessary skills and competences to get good jobs. So PTA needs to be brought in.
Okay, Professor, as we come to the end of the show, I would like to first thank you that you've honored our invitation and you're here at the Mighty Drive show. So let us first talk about women and politics. We have not seen a serious contention at the presidential level of a woman in Uganda right now. All the women that come, we saw that Nancy Kalembe was given 8th position in the just.
She was even lucky to get that.
She was even lucky to get that, as you assert. But then why is it that women have not yet rose to a level of prominence in that leadership? Let's say president, and a woman can come and really contend. What is barring the women from our politics?
Let's go back to the fundamental change. Is that a fundamental change now? Because the NRM has been crediting itself for bringing a fundamental change in respect of liberating women. Now, does that indicate that women have been emancipated? No. You and me can judge. The women have been co-opted. You get women as district representatives, but actually they are representatives of government of NRM to the districts, not district representatives to government. That is the challenge. In other words, what am I talking about? We have got very prominent women activists, gender activists, feminists out there in the civil society, in the public realm, who should be given national profile, who should be promoted in order to occupy such positions of government. They have been denied that. They have been looked at as negative forces because they are prominent in expressing the views of women. Instead, it is those opportunists, sycophants, who have been plucked out of the women activism and factored into government that are given prominence, and they end up not delivering, fearing to be presidential candidates. I can assure you, if you go to civil society, NGOs, religious, whatever, they are very prominent women activists who could make it to presidency. But those ones are normally undermined because they are said to have alternative views. Your program is about alternative. Yes. You have a lot to do in order to promote this norm and idea of alternative, tolerating the alternative. If we don't have the alternative in this country, we are doomed. We are finished. Let me use biology, analogy, to express this one. Species, that is natural species, survive better when they have diversity. If a species continues mating within itself, that species will disappear, will get extinct. Similarly, when a government does not accept diversity of views and viewpoints and philosophies and whatever, and have a political consensus, that government and that society is doomed to extinction. We are going to be recognized. So similarly, we should accept divergent views, divergent opinions, divergent policies, and not look at divergence as negative force. So if we don't do it, borrowing from that example of the natural selection, Uganda is doomed to extinction. And that is the fundamental change we wanted. Accepting diversity, tolerating diversity, accommodating diversity, harnessing diversity in order to move ahead. But once you constrain and limit diversity, like our animal species or natural species, plant species, which mate within itself and do not diversify, we are doomed to extinction. It's political extinction I'm talking about, which might diminish the gains we have, few gains we have in democracy and few gains we have in promoting women. You are the ones testifying that women have failed to come up in spite of the promise of a fundamental change, the promise of democracy, when you are not tolerating diversity, the promise of bring up the youth when you are limiting their activities. So that analogy, I think, would be a very good point for me to end on, that you need to have diversity just like in the animal world or the plant world or the natural world, that the diversity makes species more stronger, and limiting diversity makes species weaker. We are making our state weak, our democracy weak, our nation building weak, because our government weak, because we are intolerant to diversity. Not only between the government and opposition, but even within government itself, diversity is not tolerated. That's why we are always talking about rebel MPs, rebel MPs, rebel MPs, rebel MPs. That is a result of not tolerating diversity. Unless we accept tolerate diversity, we are doomed to extinction politically.
Professor, as you conclude, we want you to give us hope or not give us hope. Is there a possibility that Uganda will have a peaceful transition of power through the ballot?
We shall have a transition of power after we have first had a crisis in the country. Without a crisis, the crisis now, in Marxist terms, contradictions push the way ahead. The thesis, then you go back to antithesis, and then you move ahead. So unless we first get a crisis, we shall not go ahead. The way I see it, that's my analysis, because I don't see how these entrenched positions of historicals, we are now in a histocracy not democracy. They are saying, without shame, that we shall not hand over power to ideologically bankrupt people. But that is subjective. How do you know I am ideologically bankrupt? Well, I can say it to you, you can say it to me, but you don't add there, we shall not hand over. If you say you will not hand over, it means for you, you have an entrenched position, you think you are morally high, you stand on a high moral ground, you know for you, you are the thinker. You know, that is arrogance. First of all, that arrogance of moral superiority, of ideological superiority, is the biggest problem you, the youth, you, the alternative, should address. That superiority, that feeling of superiority can even lead to genocide. That for you, anybody else is bankrupt.
Without you seated there, there is no peace, because they say if you're trying to.
They brought the peace, so they are keeping it.
I think the peace is only there when some individuals are in power.
But even individuals, to me, is not so serious. What is more serious is for you to think that you are the only one who has the moral authority to think, that others do not think, and you stand on a high moral ground. You know that concept, that phrase, standing on a high moral ground. It is as if for you, you are a saint and the others cannot saint. You are the one who is patriotic, others are not patriotic. You are not sectarian, others are sectarian. Unless we change and accept to tolerate diversity and accommodate diversity, and know that there is no monopoly of thinking. Those who think they have got a monopoly of thinking are going to sink this country down the drain, because we cannot accept them to say that we cannot think. Let them think. We are not saying they don't think, but let them not say we also don't think. We don't want to stand on high moral ground and say we are the only ones who are ideologically correct. We are saying they may be having a point, we have a point. Let's tolerate each other, let's tolerate the diversity, but don't manipulate people here and you say we are moving term limits because they are rigid, they are making the constitution rigid. Then tomorrow you say we are moving them without giving even the reason why you're moving them. That means you are taking us for granted, and we cannot accept that stupidity.
Thank you so much for watching the Mighty Drive. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us today. And by the way, before we end the show, Professor, let's end it on a humorous note. Can you tell us what do you like to do in terms when you're in your free time? What do you enjoy doing as a person?
You mean my social life?
Yeah, your social life. Just throw more light on what you like to do in your time.
First of all, I'm a social boy. So I don't socialize in the context of drinking. I don't drink in the context of going for parties and all that. But what I would call my free time is political thinking and political socializing. So my free time is for political socializing, because I realize that this country needs our professional input, but also even our non-professional input, because in order to move ahead, because I still believe Uganda is a mere geographic expression, and I am concerned about social justice for nation building, because if we don't build this nation and we have a nation state, there are those, I repeat it, I've said it before, there are those who say Uganda is here to stay forever. I disagree with them honorably, respectfully, that Uganda can also disappear, just like Yugoslavia disappeared, Soviet Union disappeared, Sudan is almost disappearing, if not disappeared, Somalia is disappeared, Ethiopia is almost at the brink of disappearing, Libya is almost disappearing, Iraq is almost disappearing, Democratic Republic of Congo is almost disappearing. We do not want to add on that list Uganda, because we are intolerant to diversity and social justice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Professor Ndebesa. Thank you for joining us. As I told you, Mr. Ndebesa is a political historian, and he has been just dissecting more the political spectrum of the country. And as you nominate, we host for you the person you want. We nominated him, and here he is. So that is what the Mighty Drive does for you. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I wasn't alone in studios today. I was with the awesome Farid Bikovere as we were talking to Professor. He was telling us more things about nation buildings, and he thinks it's a time where we have to sit down and have a talk and yes, have all our diverse ideas and what we think of the country. So if you want our country to go forward, we have to talk about these things, and that is what the Mighty Drive does for you. We talk about these things and we discuss them in depth, and we find a way of finding a solution for our country today. Don't forget, the Voltage Show returns yet again today at exactly 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. with Lillian Mumbeja. She will be hosting some of the political rivals, and they'll be talking about the politics of this country. Always have the independent, the NRM, the National Unity Platform, all the opposition players and the proposition players at the Voltage Show. Please do tune in at exactly 7 p.m. today. Up to 9 p.m. we'll be talking about that. From the entire Mighty Drive team, we have our producer Arnold, our driver Kato, and our director Jeremiah, plus Elizabeth Musitwa, who's on camera today. So let's meet again tomorrow, same time, same station. This is the Mighty Drive. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. God bless you and have yourself a beautiful good morning.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.